So walk me through it. 5 years from now, we are all sitting on this call, and the statement is, I'm so glad we joined Filecoin when we did. And I want to work backwards from this statement, and I'm very curious. Oh, Ahmad, I see you now. Crap. I'll get back to you. I want to work backwards from this statement. And what has happened over that 5 year period for this statement to be true? And I think the answers lie within. Scott, I see you on the call, or it actually says Lauren, but it's Scott's photo. So I'm not sure who it is.
It's my name is Lauren for now because
Right.
my link was invalid, much in the same way that Torfin's name is also Brenda.
It's just it's everyone's incognito mode today. Well, I'm picking on you, Scott. Just for what comes to mind when you see a statement and you begin to work backwards.
Well, yeah. So if you're going to work backwards, then the for this, I think it's going to be interesting because we might actually find out, what people think Filecoin is and where its potential lies. So I'm so glad we joined Filecoin when we did is going to mean something different to me, than other people. Now I imagine that there's some pretty obvious baselines that I think it could drive everybody's kind of unison there. For me, what I see, I'm so glad I joined Filecoin when we did, is that I always think of it as joining early and taking the reservations that you have and some of the risks to be part of that meaningful growth. Now, for me in particular, and I am biased here, I think Filecoin can be storing a lot of the trustless data that the entire crypto ecosystem is generating right now. But nobody thinks about that. So if we can get to a point 5 years from now where all of the trustless data that humanity is generating block over block, that Filecoin has a meaningful role to play kind of in that organism, then I would be definitely glad that I joined Filecoin when I did, because I would be a core part of its success. And such that, that wasn't really what people were thinking about back in 2022 when I joined. So, I see it as Filecoin is going to be different 5 years from now if everybody is saying this. Not to say that we're not happy to be here now, but that we were there to unlock the potential and not just show up after it was realized. That's what it means to me.
Thank you for being my guinea pig.
Lauren, at your service.
James blew it. What comes to mind for you?
Can you repeat the question again, Paul, to show how?
Do I have to go to my other James?
Yeah,
Is
you
he
might.
becoming my new favorite?
I'm madly multitasking in the background.
All right. So the question is, 5 years from now, we're sitting on the call. The statement you make 5 years from now is, I'm so glad we joined Filecoin when we did. When you look at it from the community, what has happened in that 5 year time period to make that statement a reality?
I think the community itself is a good example. I think
what about the community?
Well, I mean, you find an awful lot of communities in crypto that are just toxic, plain toxic in every kind of respect, and they spend their entire time arguing. And I think we've retained a productive and friendly community who are always generous with their time for new adopters. And I think it's a good credit to us. And I've heard this a lot from other people as well, that they are always surprised by the Filecoin community. And I mean, I'm so glad we joined Filecoin when we did. It's certainly true for me. It's something I have felt through all the ups and downs and still do, and fully expect to be feeling it in 5 years' time from now.
All right, James. The other James, I've passed you by twice now, so I'll give you an opportunity. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of think that now that when we joined Filecoin, it's similar to that other statement where we're early, and 5 years from now, when Filecoin succeeds, it'll be very gratifying to have been part of this since the beginning. And also probably what happened, the price of Filecoin goes up and we're all very happy.
But what makes it blow up?
What
That's
makes
the
it blow up? Probably more adoption and real use cases. So storing data, meaningful data, whatever that means, onto the network.
Yeah, I think one of the tricks of this statement is that there's a first mover advantage. So again, part of the premise is I'm glad I got in early, as Scott said. And you were able to realize the benefits of getting in early. Like use cases is something that frankly everyone can benefit from no matter when you join. So I'm going to push back on a little bit, and I'm going to come to Jocks, but feel free to raise your hand and chime back in after you think about it a little bit more. Jocks, go ahead.
So for me, I came into this much later than everybody else, and what I like about this, I've been part of three or four startups before, and during the initial phase, there is always the irrational exuberance of what can we build, and there's all these unrealized potentials, and thankfully, I got in it at the phase where we're now asking ourselves, what can we build with it? And so now we're more concrete, we're more focused. It isn't, can we do it? Can we do it? What can we build with it? And that opportunity is opening up so many things in my eyes as we're going forward here. So I'm glad I was late to the party, because now it's like, yeah, when you're 15 and you're waiting to get your driver's license, which by the way, I've got a teenager just went through that cycle. Now, when you are thinking about how great it will be when you get your driver's license or the Christmas wish list, whatnot, now you have it. Now we can start building things. Now it's a tool. Now it's a path to bigger and other success stories, not just the trophy of doing it for the first time. So that's my take. What can we build with it? Not can we build it?
Jocks, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll kind of answer part of John's question. In my anticipation is there will be a lot of Web3 applications that will be heavily being built in probably 5 years from now. And the one thing most of them is going to have in common is they're going to want to store some data somewhere. And being a Web3 application, they're going to be able to store it on a distributed storage system. And I still think Filecoin will be the largest and most reliable distributed storage system out there. And being in early, like why start now, is so that we can build, all the interfaces and compliance and everything else to be ready when these guys build their apps, so we can connect with them.
Stu.
I've been a big believer in Web3 for a long time, and the value that it brings to us, the value it brings to primarily user control, and that's the thing that Web3 brings. And I think from a Filecoin perspective, why I'd be saying I'm glad we joined 5 years ago is that we're early adopters. We're people that got in early, and now we're experts, right? We are expert in different areas, some on the business side, some on the tech side. But, all the pain we've experienced, and many here, Jacques included, and, we lived through the space race and all the trials and travails as we've moved forward. And I expect that we'll come out of it looking great. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to being able to look back and say it was great that we all went through that pain and, got to the other side of it.
Where I go to on this statement I know this may not seem like the best analogy, but I kind of go to Silicon Valley Bank. And, if you just remove the whole part where they blew up famously, what Silicon Valley Bank made its reputation with is being the de facto choice for any technology startup. Not only it started in Silicon Valley, but then expanded to the rest of the world. And they won on customer service. They won on multiple things that the other banks just weren't able and willing to do. Customer service, making you feel important, and they made their arc where they became the de facto choice for any new startup. They were the facilitator of growth, and we're really a banking partner for those trying to grow their business. And what I love about that is like Filecoin could be that component for an AI company looking to grow out, their data storage capabilities, or enterprises, or all these different services. And like as John said, there's all these new things that we get to build with Filecoin that are going to come to market. And I see how we win is okay. AWS, Google, Azure, they're going to be the JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America of data storage. And that's great. That they give white glove to a very specific set of customers. But what about everyone else? And that's where I go to the Silicon Valley Bank analogy that everyone used for so long and they loved it. So, that's where I hope we get to 5 years from now, that we're kind of the leader in this regional banking model, but for data storage. I know we got some silent people on the call. Jonathan, lay down the law. 5 years from now, how did we win?
Well, as everybody said, just adoption, really. Just adoption, methodical, focused adoption from sector to sector. That's really it. Plus, my hairline will disappear by 5 years. So my soul will be happier because it worked, but my hairline will be nowhere to be seen.
I mean, it's going to be hard to top that closing statement for anyone else. And look, you guys are pursuing these business models. You're not the group of storage providers I'm worried about, but you're about, on a good day, you're maybe 10% of the data being onboarded to the network. The key is, and my challenge between this time next year is to make sure that as many other storage providers as possible embrace why this statement is going to happen, and how do I get them to work towards what this statement looks like. Because again, I know there's been a lot of talk about Filecoin Plus. Regardless of what the stance is on it, 5 years from now, no one's going to have a business based on block rewards. It's just not going to be the case. That means you need other components of your business model to compensate. It has to be a more holistic approach with multiple income streams, diversification, customer service. It's going to have to be a lot of different things for this statement to be true 5 years from now. And I don't think we spend enough time talking about 5 years from now, because frankly, there's too much that we need to focus on within the next year. And I get that. But every once in a while, I do think it's important for all of us to lift our heads up and spend some time on this topic. So hopefully it's not the last time we come to it, because I do think it's an important one.